Yo, YouTube, what's going on, y'all? Y'all know what it is, man. It's Words by Waters. We here. Appreciate y'all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Hopefully, I'm coming off grateful, man. I'm really trying to show my gratitude, show my appreciation to everyone. We're doing a double content building today. We just did a whiteboard earlier, Financial Fridays, but I really been wanting to get this Words with Waters comment or conversation done. I was meaning to do it a couple of days ago, but didn't have the bandwidth. And I like to come on here and communicate and share with y'all when I have that genuine bandwidth and energy to do so. You know, I really pride myself on energy and how it translates. So even if it's digitally, virtually, I still think it matters. So I don't want to come on here just real low energy. And of course, by all means, if I do have something going on, I pride myself on being transparent. Definitely will talk about it because I am a man of my word, and I think we need to communicate when we're in bad places or when we're in bad spaces. And wasn't in bad space, just had a lot of, I guess, fatherhood responsibilities to deal with. So definitely want to show up for y'all when I could. But before we even get started, man, make sure y'all tap in, hit that like, subscribe. Let's try to get this thing to 100 likes at least and be able to eventually get to 500,000 in the salon. But we can start off with 100 for sure. Really appreciate everybody who has already. Let me get a sip of water real quick. Feel a little parched. Everybody who's already been, subscribing and commenting and sharing, I really, really, really appreciate you, man. Thank you for the shorts. Everybody who's been showing love on the shorts. You know, I think something like this needs to have some virality in it and go viral so people can hear it more. So many different comments. There's so much stuff that you can look at, so much content you can connect with and look at. And I'll take the 10, 15, 20, 30, sometimes 40 minutes to look and spend time with me. So I really appreciate y'all. But let's get into it, man. So starting off 3 days into the year, y'all. Y'all can see what the title says. So this is what we're discussing today. And how this came about was really just giving people the ability to give themselves some space, to give yourself some space, to give yourself some room, to give yourself some room for error, to give yourself some room to be able to say, you know what? It's going to be okay if I make some mistakes, if I make some boo-boos, if I make some choices that I regret later on, and choices that I don't feel were the best when I made them. And y'all know how I am. I like to break things down 1 to 2, 3 different points. Today, I think I can get it done in about, I'll say 3. 3 is a good number for me in being able to break things down. Sometimes it's structured. Sometimes, it's written down and I already have how I want to put it. And most of the time, to be honest with y'all, it's just in my brain and I just naturally give it from a place of what matters the most to me from the lessons that I learned in my life over time. So with today, it's just me giving it from the lessons that I learned in my life and being able to relay that to y'all. So I seen over time that me being somebody who's really tough on himself, I didn't give myself a lot of room for error and didn't give myself a lot of room to make mistakes. And I say that not saying I was afraid to make mistakes, because I'm not one of those person that was afraid to make mistakes, but my standards for myself was so high that I didn't give myself enough room, or should I say enough compassion when mistakes were made. So that's really what got me to this enlightenment of make more mistakes and how making more mistakes will actually yield you more growth than not making mistakes and being afraid to make mistakes. So the first thing I will say is being able to say yes to making mistakes and putting mistakes in a it's okay box, and being able to look at mistakes before you even make them and say, you know what, if this doesn't go the way I want it to go, it's okay. Because there's several ways to look at life. And one of the most important ways to look at life is that we don't take losses, we just learn lessons. And the lessons are even in the mistakes that we make in our lives, whether it's something that we thought was going to go a certain way and it didn't, or something that we were going along that path and then it started to look like it wasn't going that right way and we just freaked out. We do that a lot. Sometimes we'll see things not working in our way and we'll see them going in a direction and they might actually have a chance to get better, but because we panic, we actually make it worse than it could have been, or we live from a place of fear and we actually start creating this thing that probably was never going to happen in the first place. So being able to look at life and say, you know what, this might turn to a mistake. If this mistake does happen, can I live with this? Is this something I'm willing to be like, okay, it happened, that's all right. We all make these things, they happen to us all. And being able to be okay with that because you're giving yourself the space to know that, hey, I was there. I was present for myself. I showed up and was able to say, you know what? I'm not perfect, but being able to say that you're not perfect with a compassionate and loving heart, and not more like I'm not perfect and just kind of sweeping it under the rug. Because I think sometimes we can do that and just use that as an excuse to not want to strive to become better, and saying I'm not perfect, or I'm not everyone else's standard, or I'm not the status quo, and it's kind of like a scapegoat, and being able to just kind of throw in the towel without really putting in all of your effort that you can. So I'm not saying use the ability to say you can make mistakes and you will make mistakes for an option to be able to sit out the game of life, but being able to say, you know what, it's inevitable. And if I am okay with this happening, if not, let me get to a place to where I'm okay with making mistakes and allowing myself to be fine with that, and giving myself the space, giving myself the permission to do that, because I'm coming from a place of loving and understanding and a compassion for myself in the journey of life. So I think that's the first thing. I would say the second thing, and this is probably the most important one. I'm not going to put anything in level of priority, but I would think that this is the most important one, is being able to make mistakes so you can stay in the game long enough to become great at what you want to make happen in life. Most people don't follow through and stick with things long enough and be bad at it long enough to become good at it. Like, most people aren't bad at something long enough to become good or great at it, and they give up and they let the mistakes they made discourage them, and let the mistakes that they made put a fire behind them to keep having iterations, to keep trying again. So I would say be comfortable and allow yourself to make enough mistakes to where you can actually become better at something, to where you're not making as many mistakes because you're actually in the game. So allow yourself to do that, be able to show up for yourself for whatever it is. If it's in a relationship with your partner, if it's, at work with your coworkers, if it's with your children, if it's with your pet, being able to do something that you had never done. Even if you're trying to grow a plant, you might be a plant parent and you're just trying to figure out how to do this. Be like, you know what? Okay, that first plant I had, it died, don't tap out of the game and be like, oh, I'm gonna never try to grow plants again, or I won't get a garden this season. It's just being able to be bad at something long enough to say, you know what, if I stick with this and know that my end result is I want to be somebody who has a garden, I want to be somebody who has a few pets, or have a loving relationship with my partner, or have a great relationship with my kids, that is my end result. And everything in between that is going to have a lot of mistakes, but I am willing to stick through it long enough to make those mistakes, to give myself the permission to make mistakes, to say, one day this will be here if I stay in the race. But if I get out of the race, I will never fucking know. So I think that's one of the most important things that is really why I say make more mistakes. I think that's like the core foundation of why making mistakes is important with life, because I was having this conversation with my mom today. And it's like the anniversary of my grandma's death, and she died, man, it seemed like forever ago, but it also seemed like it wasn't. She died 2002. She died almost 23 years ago. Yep. She was a young woman. That's crazy. She wouldn't even been 80 yet. Yeah, my grandma was really young. But, and my mom, it's tough for her around this time because my grandma's birthday is today. And her brother, my grandmother's son, his birthday is tomorrow, and they died like within a few months of each other, I think. Yeah, so it's always tough for her. And she was going through some discouraging, and she was really feeling good about life. And, I was telling her that life is about who you become, because she was trying to get this result from this website she was releasing or working on releasing. And it was just giving her frustration because she was trying to do something and she just wasn't seeing the result. And it's crazy because I literally was just going through this when I was building the author website, my author website, jbwaters.com. And I was doing that while finalizing publishing the Successful Self-Talk book and creating and drawing all the illustrations for the Coffee Table Financial Literacy book, all within 3 months. So when she brought this to me, I was like, I definitely understand where you're coming from. I can see your perspective, but I'm not in your shoes, so I don't know 100%, but I do have compassion for where you're at. And I was trying to, consciously apply an effort to encourage her to say, it's okay if you're not in the end result, because things will be tough in the moment to where you just want to say, fuck it, and feel like dying, feel like leaving this earth, feel like it's the worst feeling in the world. But the in-between, and it is the becoming. You have the beginning when you're born, and then you have the end when you die. And that exact same philosophy can be applied throughout your whole life when it comes to the idea of something that you see in the end result that you want to get from its inception or when it's first conceived. So, for instance, her thing was trying to get a website to have this specific task in it. And in that case, it was have a PayPal button option available. And it was hard for her to do that. So in the beginning, she was already seeing what she wanted it to be in the end, but that end result was not coming as smooth as she wanted it. And that same process happens for a lot of us in life, myself included. Like I said, when I was building my author website, and so many different examples, even, what I do for a living, working for a financial technology company, and the things I go through on a day-to-day with that, and things I'm sure you're going through, which when you have this idea of what you want, you have this idea, which is a beautiful thing because a lot of people don't know. And hopefully those people who don't know can get to the place to where they do know, and then they have to face another struggle of trying to get it to become something. But for those people who do know, you're facing whatever it is that you want to make it to, or whatever you want it to become. You're struggling to get it to that thing, and you're becoming discouraged because you have this vision of what you want it to be, but it's not becoming this thing at the pace that you want it or in the manner that you want it to become. And that there alone is frustrating you. And I encourage my mom is that is the end result. But what matters the most is the in-between, because the in-between is the becoming. It's what you're growing to. Now, we essentially have everything that we need from the first day we're born, but we have not summoned it within ourselves. And imagine if everything you was meant to do in your life you did in one day, then what would you become? If you was every year you were going to be born in one day, then you can never be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You would never become anything. You would just be all things at one time, and your life would end as quick as it began. So you have to understand the part of life that matters the most is the in-between and the becoming. And I say that to say that when you're making these mistakes in life, when you're getting these frustrations, the frustrations and the mistakes that you make in your life, or don't make if you're not in the game, because when you're making mistakes, you can't make a mistake if you're not applying your energy towards something. So the mistakes that you're making is the becoming, and you're crafting and you're becoming something as you go through these iterations and these mistakes of figuring things out. And I did this way, I did this wrong way, I did this another way. And, it reminds me of another quote I came up with. And one of my other things that I'm working on bringing to the channel is I have all of these quotes that I came up with that are mine. And I want to give y'all some backstory behind what made me come up with those. So it's called Behind the Quotes. So maybe y'all see that once I finally transition and everything and get the whole setup. But I had this other quote that I came up with, and it went, it's okay because you've never done this, and I say it's okay you've never done this because no matter what it is you're doing, you've never really done that thing. Like, you may have been a parent before, but if you have 2 kids, you've never had 2 kids at one time until you had 2 kids at one time. Like, today is January 3rd, 2025. I've never lived before on January 3rd, 2025, ever. You may have a plant, but you've never had 2 at a time. You never had 3 at a time. You never had 4 at a time. you know? So everything you do is the beginning of something new, no matter how it seemed like it's coming. So it's okay for you to have these frustrations and make these mistakes and things not go smoothly, because at the end of the day, it's okay because you've never done it. So I think that's really like this true power behind why making more mistakes is important, because who you become by making more mistakes and giving yourself the ability to be bad at something long enough to become good at it and or great at it. And I would think lastly, ooh, I don't know why I'm so thirsty today, y'all, excuse me. I would say lastly, the thing that's great that I've learned from making mistakes is really being able to have something to reflect on. Yeah, that's like, reflection is powerful, because everything within a human being, and I don't know 100% what it would be scientifically, or when it relates to science and biologically, but I think certain cerebral beings and species have memories so they can create and do certain things. And I believe even all the way down on a microscopic level to germs. I think even germs have certain memories and movements. And I think nothing that you have today would exist if you didn't have the memory to be able to create again and iterate. Like, if you learned how to walk in 7 days, but your memory would be done in 7 days, and you would never know how to walk. And you would constantly be learning how to walk every time, and you would not know how to walk, because you would learn how to do it in 7 and you would lose that again. So it's like our brains are designed for us to have a memory, so we know how to expand and grow and evolve and stack these different lessons that we learn, these different abilities that we gain over time, whether it's when we knew how to walk a certain way, whether we knew how to use a tool in the times where we needed tools to protect ourselves in the jungles from when we were building spears and sticks, and we wasn't at the top of the food chain, and we learned how to use our same brains to create even better tools like wheels and pulley systems and gears and all of these different things that we've come up with over time. That was only because of memory, because one concept was relative to a previous concept, and we've seen the application to another. We've seen an application with that exact same concept, and we applied it, and it mattered and it made sense. So I think being able to have your mistakes available to you in your memory, for those people who do have a memory and are able-bodied or able people in their minds, whose minds are in the right place to have a memory that is similar to what I'm referring to, being able to reflect on your mistakes to give you some idea of where you need to adjust. And I think that's where the lesson lies, in the memories. And I think once we become so well with understanding that there's no losses and there's only lessons, then we won't have so much trauma attached to our memories. There's a book that I love so much. I can't even think of the author's names. I'm looking at one of my bookshelf. I'm looking at my bookshelf right now. I'm looking at the book. It's called The Memory Code. I can't see it. It's too dark over there in that area, but it's really powerful, because the book talks about how every memory has an emotion attached to it. And I'm telling y'all, when I first heard that in that book, and I don't know if y'all have heard my backstory and stuff. Oh yeah, make sure y'all like, subscribe, tap in right now. If y'all in there, push the button right now, push it. But I don't know if y'all remember my backstory, if y'all see my old videos, depending on how when you came. But like, before I was where I'm at financially and where I am when it comes to financial literacy, I was starting my journey, and I was so obsessed with reading that I would just like go to the bookstore consistently and constantly and just read books to the end before I can afford to like buy them the way I buy them now. And I would just go read. And Memory Code was one of the first books that I would just go read. I would just go back to the bookstore. And then before they took my beloved bookstore out of Moreland Avenue, Edgewood Retail District, and swapped it out with a Marshall's, I still feel stabbed. I feel like a stab in the heart for that. But I know it's economics. It is what it is. But I read that book, and that's what when I first read that, I don't know, it just sparked something on me, or it sparked something on me where I was just like, man, he's right. Like, I can't think of no memory and there's no emotion attached to it. Even if it's the lack thereof an emotion, that still is an emotion to me. Like, emotion is energy and motion in my mind. So people who are just like, they don't show any emotions, to me, even you showing no emotion is an emotion. You're just trying to act like it's not and kind of mask it. But I say that to say that when you are using your memory for the sake of learning from when you're using your mistakes, for the sake of learning and reflection, then you can look at your memories and understand the emotions that's tied to it, and you're not traumatic, and there's not a trauma to it as much as if you were just looking at it and having some feelings and feeling some type of way. And there's nothing wrong with having feelings. That's what makes us human. But I think it has to do with intention and understanding the purpose and what you are compared to what you feel that you want to be. And a lot of it is really feelings, a lot of things that we think we want, we really don't know that we want those things. We just feel that. So I think once you understand that, hey, I made this mistake, what happened right there? Where was I at emotionally? Where was I at physically? Like, what was going on? Where was I at socially? Who was I around? Why did this align with where I wanted to go? Did it not? How much alignment did it have how much alignment did it have with where I'm wanting to go, where I wanted to go, where I'm going in life? And being able to reflect and grab that mistake and grab the memory attached to that mistake and grab the emotions that's tapped to that memory and grab the emotions, the memories, and the mistake together and put them in a box and kind of look at them and look at it and see what story it tells, and see if the story that it tells is a story that you can learn something from and allows you to change your life to go in the direction that you want to go to. Because there is no life without being in life. And the moment that you don't want to live, I guarantee you won't be here anymore. I guarantee you. The people that you see that truly look like they don't want to live, they're homeless, and they're just like, man, like, you can look at like crackheads or like drug addicts or people who are alcoholics or different type of people, and you can see like, how are they still alive? They don't want to look like they want to live, but something is driving them. Even if it's that alcohol, even if it's that drugs, even if it's something in them that's pulling them, that is telling them that they want to live. And they probably made 1,000 mistakes, but all of those mistakes in that person is driving them to keep living their life over and over again. And that's how you hear these testimonies, and you hear these redemption stories from people who were living so down bad. They were down bad as fuck, homeless, all these type of situations. And then they came out of it with the whole life, with the testimony, written a book, went on tour, did all this crazy stuff. It's because it was something inside of them that drove them to want to be able to find something else. And the mistake was there. And on the outside, of course it was a mistake. I'm not gonna, in my opinion, say that people don't make bad decisions and it doesn't affect people in a negative way. But the mistakes that they made showed that they were still in the game. And then the people who are just like not driven by anything, and you can tell they're not driven by anything, those are the people that end up just dying. You're like, wow. Of course, and I know this is, please, take everything I'm saying in this statement with all the compassion, and see that I'm saying it from a compassionate place, because there's people who want to live so much and they still die. There's little babies that die. There's people who are such good people in this world and they still die. Honestly, it would seem like it's before their time. So I don't want people to think like, well, those people live. No, why other people don't live? Because I think about that all the time. Like, yeah, I have one of the biggest hearts, like I said before in my other video. That's why I'm so protective, and I have a warrior mentality, and I have a rebellious, I have a really radical, don't give a fuck, really, really strong mentality, because I understand how the evils are out to get people with big hearts. And I'm just like, don't let the niceness and the compassion fool you, for real, because I'm really, really about that life. So just want people to understand that the mistakes will drive you somewhere, because it shows you're in the game. It's like you can't miss the wrong turn if you're not driving the car. You can never miss the wrong turn the way you're going if you're not in the car in the first place. So it's okay. At least you're in the game. Pat yourself on the back to say that you're making these mistakes because you're actually in the game of life and you're playing it. You're actually on the road. You missed that turn, but be happy that you're on the road, okay? So I want y'all to be understanding and say that reflection, and I'll say it backwards, reflection is powerful. That's one reason why it's good to make mistakes. It gives you something to reflect on, and being able to also see how mistakes will give you the time to become better if you actually stay in the game to keep making mistakes and being bad at something long enough to become great at it. And then lastly, like I said in reverse order, it's good to give yourself the permission to feel okay about making mistakes, about messing up, about disappointing yourself, being okay with disappointing other people sometimes, especially if you know where it's leading you and where it wants to go. I know in the journeys and the things that I made in my life, I hurt my mom. I hurt so many people. I know I hurt the kids of my mother's mother, the mother of my kids. We've hurt each other. You know, girls I've been with, family members. I know I've hurt so many people. And I've, you know, had sleepless nights about it. But at the same time, there was a big part of me that knew that it was all for a reason. And I knew I would become this person that I have there. There was so many experiments with the experiences that I was having and doing back then. And I knew, I was like, at the end of the day, I'm making all these mistakes, doing all of these things, but I know that this is where I want to be. This is who I am, and this is what this would look like. And lo and behold, with a lot of destiny, a lot of God, a lot of love, universe, energy, prayers, this is where I am. But I always knew I was. So you just have to have that end result in mind. Not be afraid of what the beginning was, what it looked like, but being even more courageous and focusing on the becoming in the middle and making mistakes while you're in the middle, trying to get to where you got to get to on this road. Because it ain't no GPSs, but there is lessons that people leave, like what I'm trying to leave with you, with books, testimonies, different people speaking. Those are the best GPSs that you can get. Because people, especially if it's from people that's in the places that you want to be. So hopefully this helped everyone. Thank y'all for your time. I really, really appreciate you. Once again, man, spread some love, man. Go share this to somebody who you think is afraid of making some mistakes, or somebody who you think was going into the new year like, man, it's going to be perfect. I'm going to do this. This is my year. And it's all good. Tell them that. It's okay. You know what I mean? It's okay. But also, give yourself some space. Give yourself some space to fuck up a little bit and feel good about it because you in the game. But one love, y'all remember to stay well, be conscious, and write your world into existence. Love, Waters.